Hi everyone, it's me, and for this video is about the Levi Strauss theory. So I'll be explaining the context behind this theory, and I'll give you some examples of what this theory consists of, as well as giving criticism for this theory, because there are some grey areas regarding the use of this theory, especially in today's world, I guess. So what is the Levi Strauss theory? So he's a French anthropologist who studied and analyzed the structuralist theory of the binary opposites, meaning there are two opposing main characters to the narrative. And this theory is often found in books and media meaning film, TV, newspaper articles, so on and so forth, maybe. So the purpose behind this theory is to that it allows the plot to be thickened by adding more depth and contrast to the story. For example, in superhero movies, we have good versus evil. In horror, it's human versus supernatural, and young and old, which is the main idea for comedy films. So there are negative stereotypes revolving around this theory, which could be said in examples such as man versus woman. So women are often treated as the lesser sex compared to men. Men are more the dominant sex, and women are just inferior to them. So, which is why this theory does have a few grey areas, especially when we are talking about gender, sexuality, race, and all that. So, and disability as such. So, things are changing, and binary opposites are not what they used to be because we have different variations of character arcs and we have more complex narratives now, which is the reason why this theory is not really used as much as it was before. So, and this is the picture of the guy behind the theory, and examples of the binary opposites. I'm not going to read the whole thing; it's just an image. So we, as I mentioned, good versus evil, peace versus war, protagonist versus antagonist, good looking or attractive versus ugly, and ignorance versus wisdom, and many other things. So, and we have dominance and oppositional, which white versus black, man versus woman, healthier versus unhealthy, rich versus poor, and so on. And there's other stuff as well. So you can adapt props theory, which is the last video where I discussed about the theory. If you haven't seen that video, you must check that video out. So it's mainly good versus bad. So the protagonist is seen as the main character or the good character or the hero, we could say. And bad characters like the villain or the arch rival or nemesis of the protagonist. So princess, siren, let's say donor, thief. Donor is the one that offers aid to the hero, and the thief takes away what the hero intends to seek or withholds something that the hero wants. So there is an example. I have the article as a reference, I'll get to that afterwards. So, binary opposites film example. is Avatar. So most sci-fi films, they use this theory. And in most mediums, they use good versus evil. So that was the one common theme in Avatar that many films like that explore. And other contrasting themes in the film include human versus alien, unknown versus known, past versus present, normal versus strange, or familiar versus strange. So the film, so I have talked about this when I did the genre theory video using Arrival as the example, as a film example. So I'll leave a link to that if you haven't seen that film video already. So the film plays around with these themes, particularly with the human versus alien narrative, which is in comparison of species in sci-fi films. So humans are the more familiar beings that we see commonly, and unfamiliar species like aliens, creatures that humanoids, or other types of human that is not like any other ordinary human, let's say. So one could argue the Navi tribe in the film display human emotions and behave exactly like us. So the only difference for that is that they is how they appear on the outside. So they have stripy blue skin, and they have tails, and they have pointy ears as well. So they have animalistic qualities, allowing them to use their tribal instincts versus the human, complex and intelligent minds on advanced technologies, resulting in a war between two sides. So the Navi are armless, only covered in scrap clothing, while humans are heavily shielded with protective clothing, wearing military clothing, bulletproof vests. The Navi are just wearing clothes that could protect, that cover their parts of the body that needs to be covered. So the only thing the Navi have are sticks and stones to help them defend themselves, while humans use machine guns. So there's a theme that they didn't say in the article, which is natural versus artificial. So natural is basically using trees and leaves and all that, the natural world, and artificials, the man-made machine guns are man-made, and ships and any other electronic device or that's man-made. So the humans want to make, basically the film's premise that the humans want to colonize the area, the locate place where the Navi live, by adding newer things, their own thing to it, while the Navi are against it and want their place to be how nature intended for it to be. So the criticism for this theory, as I said, that there are grey areas concerning this theory of binary opposition. So even though there are two opposing sides parallel to each other, critics have argued there is a middle ground, which I do agree with that, because the world around us is much more complicated than it is now. It's much more complicated than this theory suggests. So, for example, we have upper versus lower class, but in the midpoint is middle class, which is how we see like social class. So we know upper class is where the rich people are, the elite basically, and the lower class or the working class is people that are under the breadline or have low incomes. But middle class, we have lower middle class, and then we have upper middle class. Middle class is much more complicated to social class anyway. So, and also there's another example: gay versus straight. There's bisexual. We have other LGBTQ plus type communities such as non-binary. You have transgender, pansexual, asexual. It's much more complicated, I say, in terms of gender identity. And sweet and sour is the final example. There is also preferences to taste, including tangy, spicy, rich, rustic, bitter. There is a lot of things. It's much more complicated, fruity as well. So I'm saying that there is a lot of complications regarding what this theory says, how we see things. So the yin and the yang is used to create balance in the world. So without it, the world would be unbalanced. But we know there is a middle ground, and it's not how things are meant to be. So yeah. So this is the references I used, and if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share with your whoever you want to share it with. And see you in the next video. Bye.